Welcome back, folks. Thanks for joining the Ultra Catalyst podcast. Today, we are going to be talking about going ultra. Now, as you may recall, Ultra Catalyst is about talking about different events in people's lives that they use as a trigger to change their mindset, start down a new path, get rid of the different kinds of adversity, obstacles, demons, whatever it is in their life that's holding them back and pushing them forward to something new, to something exciting, to building that new individual and identity that they're going to be happy with, that they could call themselves successful. Now, it's a journey. It's not an individual destination of, I'm going to get to some place and then I'm magically going to have everything I need and I'm going to be 100% complete. We realize as human beings that is not accurate. That is not how life works. Life is a continuous journey starting from when you were born until the day or moment that you pass, right? You're constantly evolving, not just mentally, but on a biological level, right? Your cells constantly are growing and getting stronger and changing. And essentially, they're evolving on a daily basis, right? That's the magic of life is that it keeps going. And so today, we're going to talk about my experience in going ultra. Now, often I'm asked the very first question, and a lot of you could relate to this: why do you do hard shit? What is it about endurance activities that really drive you? Now, that one is a question I'm going to glaze over because I think the most important piece of this is how do you get into it, right? How do you become ultra? And when we say ultra, we mean someone that's really enthusiastic about going out there and pushing themselves to the limit to doing harder stuff they've never been able to do. Now, from the outside looking in, the question is, why in the world would you want to do that? Well, simple answer is I'm on a quest to push myself beyond what I'm comfortable doing today. There's something in life where I'm not satisfied with. Could be my financial bank account. Maybe I'm negative. Maybe I'm not bringing in enough money. Maybe I'm spending too much money, not saving enough money. And sometimes it's all about today, right? The longest period of time that we think about is not 5, 10, 15 years down the line. It's what are the results we have presently that make us unhappy, right? So that might be one of your drivers. For me, it's I'm realizing as I get older, I wasted a lot of time. I put my energy and effort into activities that didn't serve me other than for that very moment of quote unquote getting high or hiding and masking the problems from previous years that have just continued to spiral out of control, right? So for me, getting or becoming ultra, the why is I was tired of being who I was, not achieving the results I set out to do, and stuck in a vicious cycle of negativity where I had very low self esteem, very low self worth. And if I were to do a pulse check on the different parameters in life, let's say fitness, health, spiritual, financial, relationship, a lot of these markers scored well below the acceptable range that I wanted, right? If I look at my financial bank account, 200 plus $1,000 in the hole, right? And this is, we're talking many, many months ago, many, many years ago, to tell you the truth. Well, I've whittled that number down, but it takes work. I look at some of my relationships. Most of them were just based on what are you going to do for me right now in this moment or in the next few days? And it really revolved around alcohol, to be honest with you. Didn't have a lot of good, true friendships. So that's one of the reasons there. Career wise, wasn't really going anywhere in one area, too egotistic, overloaded with confidence, not really empathetic to the people that I was working with, right? That's another why that I had. Another one was, hey, I live in an RV. with a growing family. We're almost on the poverty line. However, we're living in one of the richest parts of the country. And I make a decent living. I just don't know how to spend and invest it, right? I was just wasting my money, essentially. That's another why. Another one was spiritually, I didn't have any aspirations. I might said I had some goals, but back then I didn't really have any. And where was I putting my trust and faith in? There wasn't any place other than myself, but I didn't even know who I was. So how could me putting the faith in myself really be a foundation or a rock that I was going to go anywhere, right? So those are some of the whys of struggles that I've had. And there's a lot. I mean, we could go down any one of those areas and unpack what was really going on mentally. Now, in your area, you might be struggling in any one of those areas. Maybe it's I can't grow my business. Maybe my friendships suck. Maybe I keep looking at porn or I'm too engulfed in whatever it is, video games or political news or whatever, that I just can't seem to break free of what I have right now that's holding me back. You could be a business owner and maybe you've gotten to a certain level that you think that you can't expand or grow or scale because everything revolves around your involvement. You think that if you step aside for 5 minutes or 5 weeks or 5 months, that your whole business is going to crumble. Now, there's probably some truth in that. You probably got a good culture. You just haven't brought in the right people that have adopted that vision that could step in and carry the torch for you, right? Now, that's hard, right? Because if you step away and you start to see dwindling numbers, it's because you're not putting that output out there. Now, let's get back to the topic at hand. It's not why to become ultra, it's how, right? That's a lot of questions I get asked from the people that are curious about why I go out and participate in Ironmans or marathons or ultra events, or why I spend a lot of time reading books or training for these different activities. So let me tell you about how, because it's a lot more simpler than people think. It could be as easy as in just get out and do something today, right? That's typically how we all start, right? We're not satisfied where we're at. The best way to do it is to go out there and build a habit by doing something that you enjoy, and you got to enjoy it. If you go out and you're just going to say, I'm going to go to the gym every few days and you're not enjoying it, well, the reality is over time, you're going to stop showing up because you don't see the value. You might see some sort of physical result that comes out of it, but over time, it's not going to be who you would identify as. It's not a piece of you that you're thrilled about, especially if you don't enjoy it. So you're going to have some sort of enjoyment. And over time, you may have to love that activity to a degree that you're going to keep showing up. And I say that with a slight tongue there, right? Is you might find enjoyment one day, it might not work for you the next day, but you keep showing up because you realize there's power in the activity to calm your mind and get you focused in one area so you could drive consistent results, right? That's why you're going to eventually enjoy it. And there's going to be a lot of different areas where you're going to be able to enjoy. So how? So how did I go from someone that was truly overweight, sitting on the couch, consuming excessive amounts of calories, booze, smoking, all kinds of different just bad habits that didn't really serve me? They were good at the time, but all they were doing was sapping my energy and taking my focus away from what I really needed to do. So simply put, what did I do? I went out and I bought new running shoes, new training shoes. I went to an actual running store. I got evaluated as far as what is my stride, what is my gait, where is my weight coming down when I'm putting my foot into the ground, and where am I propelling off, right? How does my stride and the mechanisms, like the true mechanisms of how running or walking, for instance, or moving, What does that really look like on camera, right? And based on that, I had a good indication of what type of shoes were necessary for me to have the most comfortable ride when I'm doing these exercises. And it's changed over time, believe it or not. When I started, my gait was a certain way, my style was a certain way, the types of shoes that I preferred. Most of the time, it was based on cost versus functionality and comfort. Those things have actually dramatically changed in the last 4.5, 5 years, right? So first starter is go get checked out, know what you're capable of and where you currently stand by essentially creating a baseline. So think about it from a baseline of your equipment, of your physical fitness, of your labs, meaning your internal markers, get all of those things checked, right? Because if you don't know where you are on any of those, starting is just one piece, but where are you going to go from there, right? Not only do you got to have a vision and a plan to get there, if you don't know what your weak parts are or where you're struggling, it doesn't really matter where you're going to focus on, right? You could just say, hey, every day I'm going to start 30 minutes. I'm going to get in a walk. I'm going to get in a jog. I'm going to stretch. I'm going to jump on the elliptical, the treadmill, the stationary bike. I'm going to jump in a pool. I'm going to play basketball, go for a swim, tennis, whatever it is. Start there. That's truly the best place to start when it comes to moving your body. However, separately, you need to take into account of where you are physically, right? Because if you don't do that somewhere along those first few months, you're going to be prone to injury. Because what will happen is as you start to build and maintain a certain threshold, let's say it's 30 minutes of walking every day, you're going to get confident and it's going to feel easy. And then slowly but surely, you're going to want to push yourself. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But let's say you do. Now, when you start pushing yourself, it's very easy to adopt a bad form. I see it in the gym all the time. Shoot, I even did it. I strained my neck the other week because I was overconfident based on what I was doing at the time, what I think I'm capable of doing. So I maxed out my effort, exceeded what I should be doing, and it still felt good. However, my form suffered, and in turn, I got injured. Now, luckily, it's a light strain, but that's beside the point. As I came up through running and I started to go from that 30 minutes to a mile to 2 miles to 5 miles, etc., my confidence was building. My physical fitness and stamina and endurance was growing. However, at the same time, it was not aligned. My confidence was way up here, my physical fitness was here. And at times I kept striving to be here, but I kept getting injured. So things like hurting my shins, not stretching, hurting my hamstrings, not fueling properly, right? There's a lot of things I didn't think about. I was just saying, hey, I'm going to go 30 minutes to 32 minutes to 35 minutes to 38 minutes, right? And along the same time, I had this overinflated confidence. Oh, I'm going to go out and crush it, right? I wasn't being realistic to where my body was at. And if I would have been, I would have cut out a lot of those injury weeks that essentially just kind of like the life of an entrepreneur, right? I was on a roller coaster, right? If I would have just paid attention, I would have been more like this. I would have been more in tune with my body and on my training that I had an actual plan. But believe me, the first 2.5, 3 years, I didn't. A lot of the events that I partook in, whether it's a 5K, a half K, a half Ironman, a 50K trail run, a lot of them were pure muscling through. And when I say muscle through, I'm talking, I was going all out, 80, 90% tempo, struggling. And then all of a sudden you'd have a crash. You're down in the dumps. You feel like throwing up. Sometimes you throw up. You're hyperventilating. You can't put any food in. You're just dying. All of a sudden you fuel up. You get a little energy, you go as far as you can, and then you come back down. And then the last half of your race, you're literally just trotting along, struggling, hating life, 1,001 ways of, can I quit now? Let me throw in the towel. Believe me, that's how it was the first few years. And there was times where I didn't finish races, and it really sucked. But you know what? Over the 5+ years that I've been in doing these activities, like I said, I learned to start slow, right? You're going to get excited. You're going to feel the energy of the crowd. You're going to feel that you're in tip top shape, and you're going to go out of the gate full blown. And I kid you not, if you're not prepared to go full blown the entire distance or the entire duration, somewhere along the line, you're going to blow up. And when that happens, that's where, if you're not prepared to deal with how your body's going to feel at that moment in time, whatever it is, nutrition, mental, physical, you're going to struggle even harder. And then that's when the true pain and potential for injury comes in, because now you're in uncharted water because you haven't blown up to the degree that you did. So back to my original point of how, start slow. Go out there, map out a plan, work on it for 2 to 4 weeks, and slowly adjust. Add a little bit more distance, a little bit more time. Jump into the gym, do a little bit of weights, not a lot. You don't need to be squatting and lifting and benching or curling, all kinds of crazy weights. No matter what you read, whoever you talk to, you don't have to do all that crazy shit in the beginning. You just have to do what's comfortable for you and build a consistent routine, right? Most people are going to be comfortable 2 to 3, maybe 4 days a week training for 30 to 45 minutes. You don't have to go all out, believe me. But over time, you're just going to get smarter with what you do. And then what I just found in the last, I kid you not, 7 months, bring in a coach who's going to be able to guide you, whether if it's in the nutrition area, the strength area, or the mechanical area of actually being out on a course and having someone watch what you're doing, looking at your form, giving you pointers, adjustments, monitoring heart rate, et cetera, right? So we're talking a collection of different people. Sometimes it could be one person that could do multiple based on their experience, their knowledge, their expertise. Other times it may be multiple people. And you might be one of the people that is very familiar with how to make those changes. And that's what's going to come into play as you start to go from just a weekend warrior to not just an enthusiast, but into an amateur, or even into a professional or an elite type athlete. You got to start somewhere, and you got to start small, and then just start building it up. Now, the last piece I want to make is you also got to track it. That is so hard. But if you got different apps that you're using, whether if it's connected to your smart watch, into your smartphone, into an app, Garmin, Coros, Apple, Fitbit, whatever it is, there's a bunch of other platforms out there that you could be using, right? Track what your water consumption is, look at your foods, look at how you perform over time, and start getting into the details. All these little markers are going to help you make adjustments as you're in pursuit of your goal, right? My goal is to run hundreds of miles per year, participate in multiple 100-mile races. And I'm still early within this, right? I know a few folks, they're running 100-200+ miles every single week in preparation for large events where they want to take some of the top spots. And by all means, that's freaking awesome. I'm not to that degree yet. My vision is there, but physically and mentally, and my capability is not. I'm not going to be the fastest 4.5, 5-minute mile runner out there. Now, can I sprint at those low degrees? But yeah, I could get there, but it's not sustainable over time, right? That's just something that my body would have to adapt to very rigidly. But the way I'm built, I don't know if I could get there, but you know what? I can help you get there because I've seen, I've done, and I'm talking to the people that have helped me get to where I am and beyond. And we're going to keep going. So whatever you're doing, just remember, you got to find not just that why, but you got to start looking at how. What are those building blocks? When do you got to make adjustments in your plan? And when do you got to call in other experts that have the knowledge that you need to be successful in whatever event that you're going to be going after, whether if it's your first half marathon, 5K marathon, 50K, 100K, 100-mile race, whatever it is, right? You're going to have to look at it and build out a plan. It doesn't have to be super schematic, right? You just put out a goal and then say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z every single week. We got templates that you could fill out to do that and check in our bios. But those are the things that you're going to want to do and start to think about, right? Because it is tough, Ask anybody out there that's training for any type of event, and when they get in there and then when they're finished, something went differently than they expected. Sometimes it's better. Other times it could be, hey, something happened at mile 22. I just lost all energy. I don't know how I could carry myself. Those things are going to happen. Believe me. It's a lot different than training, right? Training, you're going to be out there putting in the work. Sometimes you're going to push yourself harder. Sometimes you're not going to push yourself as much. But when you actually get into a registered race and you're going for it and you're all the way into it, you're going to make different decisions and different adjustments based on the conditions, plus how you feel inside compared to all the other surrounding things that are in your environment, right? That's just how it is. And if you don't believe me, you probably haven't registered for a race yet, because there's times where you're going to be running next to someone else that is running faster than you, and you're going to want to keep up to them. Maybe you had a great conversation. Maybe you're now thinking that that's your competition, and you're going to put yourself out there. And before you know it, you're probably running at 5 to 10, 20% faster than you normally do over the duration. You could wear yourself out. And I saw that happen to myself in Crazy Mountain 100 in Montana in 2022, where I ran with someone for about 10, 15 miles. And it was probably two minutes per mile faster than I had planned to do. And it wore me down because we hadn't even got to the steepest part of the mountain where I really needed to savor my energy and expand on it. But anyways, that's all that we got for you today. Remember, think about your why. While that is important, most important is putting in the work and figuring out the how, right? Because all you got to do is say, this is my why, this is what I want to do. Then it's about the execution along each of those paths, and then bringing in people that are going to be able to help you get past wherever it is. Thanks for tuning in.